Right, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we are going to cover a new chapter, which is on chapter 9, on the topic of communication. So these are the things that we are going to discuss in this particular chapter. We are going to start with the communication process, and then on the formal organization communication, and then on the informal organizational communication, and up to the categories of interpersonal communication. So communication is the most important thing in organization, especially in this context. Within the scenarios that we are having at the moment, it is very important for the organizations to be able to communicate effectively. Let us take our class for MGT420, for example. If we could not identify an agreeable medium that we can communicate between each other, there is no way that we can achieve mutual understanding on the things that we need to do. So most importantly is for the lecturers and the students to identify the most effective means of communication. And when we look at the means of communication, different lecturers and students, they have different mode of effective communication. For some like myself, I like to do this like short videos and post it in YouTube channel. And for others, they like to have the online learning ODL through Google Meet. Some use Skype, some use Facebook, and even some they just maintain by using their communication through Island, through iDiscuss and whatnot. And some of my friends, they are using the medium of WhatsApp and Telegram. So those are all medium of communication. Why are we having like so many different mediums of communication, modes of communication? Because we want to relay and convey the message. We want to make sure that the students will receive the intended meaning that we want them to understand. Because the most important thing, yes, we talk about communication is the most important element in the organization. And the element within the communication is the conveyed messages, the intended messages that we want to deliver. If you choose a wrong mode, the students will not be getting the information. If you are not using the right channel, the students again, they will be lost in terms of understanding and getting the right messages that we as the lecturers would like to deliver. So what is communication overall? Communication is the process that managers use to interact with subordinates, peers, supervisors, customers, suppliers, owners, the general public, etc., etc. It is a complex process that requires constant attention so that intended meanings, understandings, and or feelings are sent and received. Why do we put here as feelings? Because sometimes another important part of communication is your gestures, and the way that we deliver the information. Sometimes it is very difficult for us to do this online communication because there is no face-to-face communication. You cannot see my body language. You cannot really see in terms of my body gestures. And so it limits in terms of the effective communication. And why I do like to have like this type of videos so that you can see my movement and whatnot, because trust me, bigger percentage of effective communication came from body language, your body movement, your gestures and whatnot. And so your facial expression, all of those contributes towards, I will inform you later, and once I've got the right figure, if I'm not mistaken, it's about like 57% or 70% of the communication, effective communication come from that body language. So that's why it is a complex process anyway. It is complicated and dynamic because there are many factors influencing its effectiveness. We have the senders, messages, channels, receivers. Sometimes they do not remain constant or static. While we are listening, sometimes we are also listening to the radios, to the television, especially in this medium. While you are watching my videos, sometimes maybe your kids are calling for you, your spouse is calling for you, asking for something, And yes, that is a challenge. And then even a simple two-person interactions involving multiple variables. There are also noises. Sometimes communication is symbolic, with the meaning of most of our words and signs changing over time. So this is the communication process that I would like to discuss today in the first video. We talk about the components, and later you guys can look into the slides to understand, to have a better understanding. Uh, the first element when we talk about communication process is the social context. This is the setting in which the communication takes place. It could be in the classroom, it could be in the YouTube channel, it could be in terms of the videos, it could be in your handphone through messages, WhatsApp and whatnot. It can be in terms of the email. So that is the social context, is the setting. And then we have the sender. Sender is the person who initiate the communication process. And then the sender usually will encode. Encode is the process of translating the sender's idea into a meaningful format. For example, I would like to inform you that the test would be on the 20th of June. For example, I changed the date, for example. Instead of 28th, now I would like to inform you that it's already changed to 20th of June. So the process of me typing on that message, that is the encoding. And the process of encoding is we get the ideas into a systematically into a meaningful form of communication. And then we have the message, and then from that encoding process, and then saya pun I send the message when I drafted complete from all the things that I would like to inform you. So now I've got that message, and that message I will send through WhatsApp. So that is the channel of communication through WhatsApp. And then this is the carrier of the message by which the message is sent, and then before it reaches the receiver. If the sender encode, the receiver will decode. What does decoding means? Decoding is the process of the receiver trying to translate and understand the content of the message. So by the time when the incoming text in your phone, you will hear a ding, a sound, a ring sound, for example, ting, and then you know that there is an incoming message, and you go into the WhatsApp group and you read that as there is a message from me, and then you click on the group channel, and then you click on the message. That is the process of decoding when you read through the message. Okay, the test will be rescheduled from 28th to 20th of June 2020. So that is the process of decoding. And while we are doing that, sometimes we are dealing with a lot of noises. For example, the TV, kita punya spouse, kita punya anak, masa kita tengah nak baca that SMS, tiba-tiba SMS, a different SMS comes into your mailbox, and so there are lots of noises. Even sometimes the traffic, the sounds of the birds chirping outside can also be a noise depending on the individual. So those are the communication process and the components of communication. And the next part that we are going to discuss is on the formal communication. In organization, there is always a formal form of communication between us and organizational members, with the superiors, and also with those our operating employees. The formal communication channels follows the chain of command and is recognized as official, meaning that once we receive that, we consider that as an instruction, as an order, and we are obliged to follow that instruction. Direction of the flow, one way to view formal communication within organization is to examine how it flows vertically or horizontally. So this is the diagram. Sometimes there is an upward, meaning that from the bottom to the upper level in the organization, and then from downward communication from top to bottom. And then we also have a horizontal between employees in the same level. At the departmental levels, also we need to communicate, because in order for us to design a particular product, the designers, the marketers, the HR people, the accounting people, the finance people, the production people, they need to communicate before we can design the end product. All the communication beforehand is much more important. And sometimes we also need to communicate to the top level managers. We need to inform them. There are lots of complaints with regards to our existing products in the market, based from your communications with the suppliers and whatnot, your distributors. And so you need to relay this information to your top managers. And sometimes the top managers needs to instruct you. Yes, I need you to work on Sunday. I need you to work on Saturday. And they will do that through an email, formal WhatsApp group and whatnot. And that is considered as a formal communication. The horizontal communication is important, again, between departments and for the coordination, collaborations, and also cooperation among the team members. All right. So we will see again in the upcoming videos on this particular chapter. Peace.